Awesome, thank you. How is the mood in the room today? All good? Fantastic. I'm very conscious that I'm sitting between you and your first drink tonight, so bear with me. My name is Caitriona Staunton, and I'm the Asia Pacific Recruiting Lead at Atlassian. I'd love a quick show of hands to start. Who here in the room has heard of Atlassian before? Oh, wow. Okay, cool. That makes my job easy. For those who may not have heard about us before, we're one of Australia's leading software companies. And BRW this year named us one of Australia's best places to work as well. I'm really excited to be with you guys here today. We're big LinkedIn fans over at Atlassian. And I was really honored to be asked to come and share some of our stories with you. And I'd like to share with you some secrets about how we attract overseas talent to Australia. Something that's a really critical part of our hiring strategy, and something that I like to refer to as finding a Spanish Nemo. I'd like to start, I guess, by telling you a bit more about what we do at Atlassian. So we are a tech company that builds software for other companies. So companies like Boston Dynamics use Atlassian products to build robots that actually save human lives by going places that we can't go, like fires and disaster zones. Tesla, the electric car company, uses Atlassian products to build cars that run on software and provide an alternative to fossil fuel consumption, so they're better for the environment. Here in Sydney, Cochlear use Atlassian products every day to help people hear for the first time, people like Felix here. And that's through software-powered hearing aids. And this is our mission, to advance humanity through the power of software. And that's just 3 ways in which we do that. Now, it's not a small mission, I guess, and really it takes the world's biggest and brightest technical minds to help us build that really advanced software. And that's where my recruiting team come in. So we scout the world looking for the best and brightest technical talent and convince them to join us on this mission. But we have a pretty big challenge. And our challenge is this. There has been a 41% decline in the number of technical graduates coming out of Australia's universities in just the past 13 years. There is a dire technical skills shortage in Australia at the moment, and so much so that many refer to it as a national emergency. Australia has actually produced and created double the amount of technical jobs in just the past decade than it has technical grads to fill those roles with. So really, we just don't have the technical talent in Australia that we need today. Now, you might be thinking, well, how does that leave your recruiting team feeling? And to answer your question, it's a little bit like this. We're challenged with finding lots and lots of these technical mindsets in a hyper-growth phase for our company, but during this dire skills shortage in Australia. So at this point, our international hiring strategy becomes more important than ever. And our international talent, or our Spanish Nemo, become a critical part of our strategy. Now, you may be sitting there thinking that sounds pretty challenging, finding all those people in a big skills shortage, but maybe that doesn't impact me today because I'm not with a software company. Well, guess again. Why? Well, hands up who knows what talent their companies are going to need 5 years from today. I was going to go on and say, keep it up if you know in 10 years' time what talent you'll need, but that says a lot. Digital disruption is a really hot topic for businesses today, and underpinning that digital disruption is software. So they say that they say that every company in the world can fall into one of 2 buckets today. And that's companies that are becoming software companies and those that are being disrupted by software companies. And you only need to look at the likes of Kodak, Nokia, Borders, Blockbusters, just to see that really powerful shift. And so even if you're not thinking about international hiring today, it may just be time to start thinking about it now. And those American, Chinese, or Spanish Nemos may just be an important part of your hiring strategy. So there are 5 parts in our secret formula for attracting overseas talent to Australia. And I'm going to talk you through each of these and tell you a few stories about how we make them work for us at Atlassian. And in each of these parts, I'm also going to pose a question to you for you guys to consider in your own hiring strategies. So first up, we search for insights. Now, all of us have data available to us in our respective companies, but the big question is, how are we using that data? And at Atlassian, we really believe that data can be a great source of insights for helping us uncover hidden talent. Now, it's easy in today's world of being inundated, I guess, with information, this information overload world, to really become overwhelmed by just the amount of data out there. And in our international search, pulling insights from data really becomes a critical starting point for us. I mean, where do we even start to look for this talent? And that's actually a question I'd like to turn over to you in the spirit of audience participation. So I'm just going to give you a couple of moments, and I want you to talk to your neighbor, and I want you to come up with 2 locations in the world that you might start looking for software engineer talent should you be asked to do so tomorrow. So just a couple of moments, talk to your neighbor, and 2 locations. Okay, I'm going to bring you guys back to the room. Hopefully you all had time to come up with at least 2 places. And I'm going to pick at you guys in the front row. So can you share one of the places that you explored? South America? Awesome. Can you tell me why South America? Awesome. Untapped talent in South America. How about you guys? Did you come up with it anywhere different? Awesome. Eastern Europe? Fantastic. Eastern Europe, lots of development as well. Awesome. Awesome. Ghana and Impala. Kampala. Fantastic. Tell me why there? Awesome. Thank you. And it's great to hear places outside the usual, Silicon Valley, London. Well, we looked at some data, and interestingly, it led us to believe that our search should start in Spain, Germany, Ukraine, Russia, and Israel. And why these countries? Well, we actually ran some internal employee surveys and spoke to our internal employees. We also looked at studies from places like the Corporate Leadership Council, as well as the talent pool research from LinkedIn as well. And the insights from that data actually showed us that these countries, for us, were hidden gems. So that meant that all of these countries had a lot of technical talent, but more importantly, the demand for that technical talent was relatively low in comparison. And the usual hub spots like Silicon Valley and London and other Asian countries, we found were actually saturated markets. So for every Atlassian company out there fishing for talent, there was 100 other awesome companies fishing in the same talent pool. So that insight was a really important start for us. It also showed us that in countries where there was economic or political uncertainty, candidates in those countries were a lot more likely to ship themselves to the other side of the world. A second insight that we pulled from that data was more around what our candidates in those geographies in particular really cared about. So for us, it was 5 things. Our target geos and the talent in those geos cared about a couple of things. They wanted to work somewhere where they would really have impact. They wanted to work on really difficult, challenging problems that would help people at scale. They wanted to work somewhere where they were already passionate about the products, in a company that had strong values and ethics, an autonomous, no BS corporate environment, and that supported a work-life balance and a good lifestyle. So that second insight really helped us shape our value proposition. And I'll tell you a little bit more about what we did with that insight in the next section. Number 2, we know where our hidden talent is, and we know what resonates with them. Now we needed to win our talent over with an expanded value proposition by selling the bigger dream. Now, when we go to a new market, we can't just go with the standard stuff. We're lucky at Atlassian, we have the bean bags and the pool tables, but actually they're absolute non-negotiables for us in the industry. And so for us, the experience of Atlassian was about a lot more than this. And the real secret to expanding our value proposition was realizing what our international talent cared about and craved for, and then connecting to that in our outreach with them. So we learned from that insight just in the previous slides that having an impact was really important. Well, front and center of all of our outreach to international candidates is that big mission that I showed you earlier, to advance humanity through the power of software. And so that mission reminds candidates that they will have impact at Atlassian, and we want them to. But a second big asset for us that ties back to what they care about is our location. And our location is one of our biggest assets. And when we reach out to candidates in the Ukraine, Spain, or Russia, we're really selling the destination and the location just as much as we are the company and the role. And we're starting to think like tourism marketers here and helping them picture their new life down under. And let's not forget, Australia is one of the most beautiful places in the world to live. No bias there at all. But it's also a place where international talent feel at home the quickest. And that's not surprising. We're already a really international bunch. More than 40% of Sydney-siders have at least one foreign-born parent. So it's easy for them to assimilate fast. But we also have the awesome climate, the great stunning beaches, and pretty decent restaurant and bar scene as well, I think you'd agree. But for us, it's about connecting our international talent in our outreach and helping them picture that new life here. And for us, when we're reaching out to technical talent in particular, Silicon Beach becomes a big driver for us. We need to remind our technical talent that there is an alternative to Silicon Valley and a place to advance their career. And we refer to the tech community as Silicon Beach and remind them that this is a good alternative for them. This is just 2 examples of some recent messaging that we hit up Europe with. And on the left, we designed this, I guess, to hit up European talent in their coldest winter months. Very cruel, but it works. And on the right, customized to grab the eyes of our design talent, which is also a big market for us. But either way, it's about finding messages that really resonate with what we know our candidates in these geographies care about. So along with the mission and the location, there's another thing that we share in all of our outreach with candidates, and that's our company values, because again, we know that that's on their list of things that they care about. And so I want to share with you what we show to candidates in our outreach.
Culture is a thing that can't be manufactured so much as it's a combination of characters of all the people that live in the building, if you like. And our values in some ways is an attempt at making sure that we're hiring the types of people with the right attributes we want, whilst at the same time understanding that those people's skills will change, their job roles will change and all that sort of things, but fundamental base attributes of how those people treat the world, treat other people, treat their customers, won't change over the lifetime of the company.
1. Open company, no bullshit.
Remember those Christmas dinners when you tell it how it is to your family? There's some safety and trust and also a feeling of welcomeness.
It really fosters a sense of trust within teams.
The staff get informed every step of the way in what's happening with the company and what's happening with any changes to products or any new products or any information like that.
Honesty and integrity are very important to me. They're personal principles, and knowing that I'm coming to work with people who share these values makes me feel very good.
Don't the customer.
So initially, I think when people come from more traditional corporate style environments, they're just kind of like a little shocked initially.
Don't the customer, when I think that, it forces me to step out of my engineering mindset, thinking about the intimate details of the problem, and to think, if I was a person in front of a computer using this, how would it affect me?
And in doing so, it kind of solidifies the importance that we place on our customers, and also, hopefully, it also transcends towards making our customers realise how important it is for us as well.
So I have clipped that video slightly. That's just 2 of our company's 5 values. But the reason I showed you that video is that it is really important for us in our connections with our international talent to connect them to our values. That tells them a lot about working for Atlassian. It tells us about the values that guide our work and our decisions. And importantly, it lets them opt in or opt out if those values don't align with their own. But really, it's about finding and creating messages that will inspire our candidates and really sell the bigger dream. Okay, so we're at a point where we know where our international talent are, and we've crafted an awesome message to really grab their attention around something that we know resonates with them. The third part of our 5-part secret formula is to create brand ambassadors to deliver that message. Now, who here in the room has heard about brand ambassadors before? Who's heard about them already today? Yeah, it's become a bit of a recruiting buzzword, unfortunately, but I did still want to share with you how we create brand ambassadors in a practical way at Atlassian. Because I guess at one stage we realized that the best person to talk to an engineer isn't always a recruiter, but often another engineer. And the same goes for designers, you name it. And really the appeal and credibility about any role really comes from those who are living and breathing it every day. And at Atlassian, we really believe that hiring should be in the DNA of every employee. So we try to engage them at every stage of the of the hiring life cycle. In our Life at Atlassian videos, we've created a series of videos that leverage our employees' stories. So we ask our international employees to talk about their new life at Atlassian and their new life in Sydney. So people like Seb here. And we ask them to talk about stuff that they care about. So whether that's the mission, the values, our products. The idea is to really help our international candidates hear these different perspectives from our employees and get a different sense of what their life in Australia might be like. And we've actually created a library of these resources that just makes it easier for our brand ambassadors to really push that message out to our global audience. And luckily, social media has made that easier than ever before. We didn't want to just leave it there. We wanted to give our brand ambassadors the tools, tips, and tricks to really be able to deliver this message and talk to our candidates in a way that we knew only they could. So we decided to run a social media workshop with our employees. Has anyone tried a social media workshop and running one with your employees? A couple of people. Fantastic. We started with our design team. And our design team realized at one point that they needed to attract overseas designers to the Sydney team. They really wanted the global design community to get a real good sense of all of the awesome stuff that they were doing at Atlassian. But their online brand presence and social media presence was pretty minimal. So we sat down with them, and the first thing we did was show them the data. And this was data that was easily pulled from the likes of LinkedIn. And that showed them that just our Sydney design team alone was already connected to more than 60% of the world's UX designers. We also showed them just how often their profiles were being viewed by this community. And they were pretty shocked by the numbers there. But what was more shocking was what this global design community was seeing when they did search for design at Atlassian, and it was a little bit disappointing, to say the least. But we did some simple things. We showed them how to transform their profiles, adding things like pictures, videos, sample work projects, and even just more exciting descriptions of what they were doing every day. And we didn't stop at LinkedIn. We also showed them how they could use platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Google+, Glassdoor to really push that message out there. And I was really happy to see my Twitter feed fill up with all of these messages from that team about why they think their job is the best job in the world. So that workshop was about 3 months ago now, and I was really happy to see some tangible results from it. So since then, we saw a 35% increase in the number of people from that design community who had followed our company, and a 15% increase from that community again who had actually viewed our careers page. So just some really awesome, tangible results from sitting with our brand ambassadors and showing them all of the stuff that they could do to deliver our message. So the fourth part of our strategy, when you're entering a new market, whether that be here in Australia or internationally, it's really important to think about how you're going to differentiate yourself, how you're going to cut through the clutter and the noise of all the companies that may already be in that market. Because I guess we all know today that the best talent out there typically have overflowing inboxes full of in-mails, right? Well, when you are thinking about a new market, it's important to think big and, if possible, to be bold. And it's about thinking about how you're going to shake up, reinvigorate, or disrupt your existing messaging to really grab the attention of that new audience. So one way we really like to do this at Atlassian when we're serious about making a splash in a new market is through hiring campaigns. We love hiring campaigns. We love big bang hiring campaigns because they let us do a couple of things. They let us set big, audacious goals. We can really rally the company behind those goals, and that creates a lot of drive and momentum. And it also often leads to free media coverage, which in a brand new market is just invaluable. So a couple of years back, we were at a point where we knew that Europe was going to be a big hiring opportunity for us. But we were pretty much an unknown there, and we needed to change that. So we thought, how are we going to cut through the clutter and really grab the attention of our European audience? And the way we thought about the campaign was, well, what's going to go viral? What are people actually going to want to tweet about? What might come up in a dinner party conversation? Or, what would journalists really, really want to write about? And we came up with this. And the message here was that this relatively unknown Aussie company was coming to Europe with a bus emblazoned with our mascot Charlie on it. And the message was that we were coming to steal their geeks. And we set a really big, audacious goal with this one. We wanted to hire 15 software developers in 15 days. And we created an online buzz by inviting people to follow us online and track our hiring bus as we went from city to city, stealing geeks along the way. But the results of that campaign really amazed us. In those 15 days, we attracted 1,000 online applications from this relatively new market of ours. We hired those 15 niche software developer roles. But I guess the biggest piece here was the brand impact. So this cheeky little Aussie campaign was actually picked up by media outlets all over the world. And even to this day, 3 years later, we're still hearing from candidates on the back of this campaign. I'm happy today to say that we're at it again. Just this morning, we actually launched our latest European hiring campaign. And I can give you a bit of a sneak peek of that today. So I can tell you that the bus is back, and we're going back to Europe. But this time our goal is to hire 10 UX designers in 10 days. And that's because that's a new market for us. But again, it's more about hiring 10 UX designers. It's about cutting through the clutter and building our brand there. So we're going to fill up this VW camper van full of brand ambassadors from our Sydney design team to deliver the message that awesome design talent want to work at Atlassian in Sydney. So I look forward to sharing the results of that campaign soon. But I guess I'm not here today to tell you to go and buy a bus. That's not always practical. And really, it's not about spending a lot of money either. It's really about thinking of ways to differentiate yourself going into that new market. And I guess the toned down version for us for this is thinking about ways to warm up an audience before we hit them up and ask them if they want to come and work for us. So even things online like sharing online blogs and content really just raises the awareness of that new market, and they're a lot more likely to consider us when we hit them up with the all-important in-mail. Great, so we're on the home stretch. We know where our Nemos are hiding, and we know what makes them tick. We've created awesome messages that are really going to grab their attention because they're built around things that resonate with them. We have an army of brand ambassadors ready to go and ready to deliver that message. And we've thought big, and we were being bold to really grab the attention of our new market. So what's left? Well, our fifth and final secret in our five-part formula brings us back to one of our company values and how that translates to candidate care. Because when you're hiring internationally, it's really important not to drop the ball here. When we source internationally, we're not just convincing people to take a new job. We're actually convincing them to take a whole new life. You know, when you move internationally, we're asking candidates to pack up their house, take their kids out of school, ship everything they own to the other side of the world, and often to a country where they're not even native speakers. And at the end of all that, we really want to make sure that they thank us for it. So one of the newer initiatives of how we've thought about really keeping those candidates engaged after we extend an offer to them is that we follow up a verbal offer with a physical package that we sent to their front door. And we call this a good day and get to know you package. And the idea is that this package could be filled with anything. And the idea really is that we personalize it as much as we can. But it can contain, for international hires, things like a relocation guide to help them with everything that they need to know when they relocate. It could have details of a relocation ambassador, someone who's done a similar journey and can help buddy with them throughout the process. But I guess my favorite part of that Good Day and Get to Know You package is something that we call a pre-cation voucher. So we actually send a vacation voucher to every hire that we make. And we ask them to take some time to relax and recharge before their first day with us. Now, that's not because we're really nice people. I mean, we are. But that's because we know that when they do take time to relax and recharge, they're a lot more likely to hit the ground running on their first day. But that's just an idea of one way to really have that impact on a candidate experience. And again, it's not about spending lots of money, and I'm not expecting all of you to go out and send holiday vouchers to all of your hires. I know that's not always practical. But again, it's just thinking about how can we as recruiters go the extra mile or even the extra inch to really have that lasting impact on a candidate's experience. So with that, I wanted to share just a couple of results from our 5-part formula. And one of those was, since we started to hire internationally and really take it seriously, it's allowed us to build a lot more of a diverse workforce. So our workforce is a lot more of a reflection of the diverse and global customers that we support, which at the end of the day is a massive competitive advantage for us. In terms of growth, that skills shortage that I spoke to you at the beginning hasn't had the impact that it could have had on just how fast we can grow. So actually in the past 18 months, our Sydney headquarters has doubled in size. And critically, a third of those hires actually came from overseas. So who here can remember all 5? I'm not going to test you, don't worry. But the important thing to remember is, are you searching for insights to uncover hidden gems? How are you expanding your value proposition to sell the bigger dream? How are you leveraging your army of employees to become brand ambassadors and deliver that message for you? When you're going into a new market, are you thinking big and being bold to really grasp the attention of that new audience and make them sit up and listen? And finally, are you going that extra mile or even that extra inch for your candidate experience? So I really hope this presentation has done 2 things. One, I hope it's given you some insights on how we do things at Atlassian. But number 2, I hope it's given you some ideas that you can use in your own sourcing strategies. Now, my team are all here today. If you would like to continue the conversation, we'd love to share some more stories with you, whether it's over a few drinks later or in the future. You can also tweet at me at @CatStaunton. But otherwise, I would love to open up to the floor and take any questions that you have. Do we have floating mics? Awesome.
I was going to say, with the overseas campaigns, do you translate all of that collateral into the languages that you're targeting?
It's a good question. Most of the collateral we don't translate, but we have translated some of our job ads when we're going to that market. And the reason we don't translate all of it is that English is actually a requirement for these guys to work in Sydney. So the candidates that we're hitting up, we're hoping that they have some level of English skills.
Hi.
Hi.
Interested to know what kind of channels you use in those countries. Do you then go and use like traditional job board channels, say in Spain, so like the Seek equivalent, or how do you break that down?
Yeah, we definitely try to experiment as much as possible. So my team love trying out new sources and places to really go and find talent. LinkedIn isn't the most popular place in every single country, and it's really about finding out which geography and I guess talent community is important to you, and then figuring out where they hang out. So for designers, we use things like Dribbble. I was going to say Zing, but someone recently told me that it's Crossing, Xing, is a big one for our German market, for example. So it's a combination, but we try to experiment with as many as possible.
Hi.
At the back.
Hello. You talk about having your talent ambassadors and it being part of their DNA. Do you have a referral program to reward and recognise the efforts of your ambassadors and your employees? And if so, what does that look like?
Sure. We do have a referral program, and it's definitely part of being a brand ambassador. So we don't reward our employees necessarily for being a brand ambassador and sending tweets. We actually empower to do that because they really want to tweet about stuff that they find really excites them. But we do also have a referral program. We're always looking to I guess, check the success of that program. It's up to $10,000 for a hire. And I think that's probably as a PR piece as much as anything else. The idea is that you can get up to $10,000 if your hire stays for 5 years. You get $2,000 when they start, and it goes up. But personally, I'm not sure if even the financial incentive is what makes our employees refer. It comes back a lot more to them really enjoying working at Atlassian and wanting to find their friends' jobs. So to answer your question, I guess we do have a referral program, and there is a financial side of it, but it's more about being an ambassador for the company, I think.
Just a quick question. So visas can be a very complex issue. So how do you at Atlassian manage that with the volume that you guys deal with?
Yeah, we're fortunate in that the Australian government now realise that there is this skills shortage. So when we apply for all of those overseas folks to get visas, we're actually quite fortunate in that they're supportive of that. And we hire a small team in Manila to help us with the logistical side of that piece. But our founders also spend a lot of time lobbying with the government to make sure that those 457s are always available to overseas talent when there is a shortage. Cool. And I think we're out of time. Thank you very much again. Like I said, I'd love to chat to anyone and all of you later today. Thanks.